結構最初受け入れられなかった。クラスメートに受け入れられないいじめとかもあったし。
You speak Japanese, you say like konnichiwa and they'll say hello. And it's like
the amount of times I have heard.
Hey everyone! Today we're interviewing brown people in Japan and asking them what it's like to be a brown person in Japan. I'm a self-taught Japanese speaker of 7+ years and moved to Tokyo from San Francisco last year to share with you guys the beauty of Japan and everything it has to offer through my lens. And with that, let's get into the video.
Hi, my name is Priyanka Yoshikawa. My dad's Indian, my mom's Japanese. I was born in Tokyo, raised in the States, Japan, and also India. And I'm now based in Tokyo.
So my name is Shreya. I'm from India. I was born there, but I did grow up fully in Japan, like since I was a baby.
Hi, my name is Sagar. I was born in India, brought up here, and I've been living in Japan for about 25 years.
So I'm Sarah. I'm from Bangladesh, but I'm raised in Japan and I went to international school here.
So how long have you been in Japan?
So I've been here 24 years.
Oh, so your whole life?
All my life. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I'm Shah. I'm from London, but my parents are from Bangladesh. Been living in Japan for, how long now? 2019? 5.5, 6 years now. And I do video production in Tokyo.
What brought you to Japan?
I needed a new adventure in life. I mean, a lot of people say stuff like that, but I left, I had a finance career in London and I was like, I need a real change around me of some kind to grow. And I thought, okay, I visited Tokyo for like a month and I was like, oh, Tokyo seems like a good spot.
日本とインドのミックスとして日本で住むのはどうですか？
なんかいいところもあって悪いところもあって、悪いっていうかちょっとネガティブサイドみたいな。アメリカで育ってた時は、あんまりそのインドの血が入ってることとかに質問がなかった。なんか結局、まあいい意味でも I was one of them みたいな。なんかいろんなミックスの子が私のクラスメートにもいたし、でも日本に帰ってきたら唯一のミックスで、なんか肌の色が自分だけ濃いとか、なんかピアスとかも開いてたし、とかなんかその文化が違うことに対して結構最初受け入れられなかった。クラスメートに受け入れられないいじめとかもあったし、なんかその狭間に良くも悪くも、でもそれと同時に日本ではなんかミックスになりたいとか、なんか憧れられる声もあるのに、なんか通った経験が全ていいわけではないっていう、そのなんかね難しかったです、幼少期は。
What's it like being brown in Japan?
I feel like everyone has a different experience. For me, since I went to international school and had an international environment, I didn't feel brown necessarily. I just felt foreign or like international. But I think if you came from like abroad, you'd feel a little different from the way I feel. In Japan, there is like, oh, foreigners are all like American.
Yeah,
That's true. Expectation. So
yeah.
They're like, oh, you speak English, oh, American, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh no, that's not it. And like, they expect all foreigners to speak English. I think that would be something brown people face in Japan.
What's it like living in Japan as an Indian person?
You know, I can't complain. I'm lucky. I don't think I've experienced any like severe racism or anything like that. I would say it's more like a buildup of maybe microaggressions, you know, things like getting glared at sometimes, or like the whole apartment thing of, you know, being told maybe someone wouldn't want me to live in their building. So just little things like that maybe.
So were you denied like being able to live somewhere before, or?
I was told that it might be more difficult for me. And when I did like go see an apartment, the landlady was like glaring at me and she just kind of gave me a look that was like, it's like she didn't want me to like go look in the apartment. So I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to end up living here, but yeah.
But day to day, is there anything that you feel like you don't necessarily fit in, or people aren't as like responsive to you in a certain way?
I think because I'm living in Tokyo, it's a bit different. When I was in Nagoya, I did feel a little bit more like, oh, there's not that many people like me. I will credit not being, you know, severely bullied or anything like that to going to international school. I think if I went to a public school, it would have been a completely different story. I think it would have been a lot more brutal. So I am thankful I got to go to an international school. Yeah.
Gotcha. What's it like being an Indian person in Japan?
So being an Indian person in Japan, I would say, is quite interesting. It's challenging in some ways because not being able to speak Japanese can be really tough. I can speak Japanese, but even then, the cultural barriers that, exist with Japanese people are really difficult to overcome, because one thing is like you might not be able to see eye to eye on a lot of things. I think just like the language aspect is a huge thing, because within the language there's a lot of context that you don't really talk about, and so you have to be able to pick up on those nuances, otherwise communicating can be really difficult. And there's a lot of respect and manners that even translates through the culture and language that I think if you don't know, it can be really hard to kind of integrate into Japanese culture.
その子供の頃と大人になってからのなんか違いはあったのかな？
そうね、なんかその日本に帰ってきたばっかの時が11歳の時で、その時はやっぱりまだみんな子供だからなのか、ちょっと違うというものに対してもっと素直に表現したのがちょっといじめとかになっちゃったのかもしれない。まあよくないんだけどね。けどやっぱそういうところから自分の多分アイデンティティみたいなものを探してって、こう中高につれて自分がこう居心地がいいとか、なんか自分はこういう人なんだっていうその答え探しみたいなのができてって、こうあまりその自分がミックスだからとか、なんか名前がカタカナだからとか、そういう細かなコンプレックスを当初はあったけどなくなって、なんかこうなんて言うんだろう、英語でだけ you're comfortable being yourself。
yeah.
だけどやっぱ最初はやっぱそれが受け入れられないと思ってたバイアスからなかったかな。なんか大人になるにつれてやっぱその自分のコミュニティじゃないけどもっていうのを見つけれたから変わった。でも見つけれない子もいるのはわかる。なんかずっと自分がどこにも属してないとか、you always feel like an outsider みたいな感じの気持ちでこう落ちちゃう子もいるけど、比較的私はなんかこうポジティブに転換できるようになった。
What's it like being a brown person in Japan?
You're visibly not Japanese, right? But you're like, that's one thing, like the foreign experience. But being brown or black, or basically if you're not white, essentially, you fall into a different category of foreigner. So it's like the looks or interactions are slightly different. But I think for me, what being brown in Japan, the interesting experience is, I guess I grew up in London, so I was born there, raised there and everything, but you still get the racists saying this, that, that, go back to your country, this, that, that, I was fucking born here. But it's like here, the xenophobia, racism, whatever it might be, it's like of a different essence essentially. But it's also, it feels good to be Asian in Asia.
Right.
It's a really strange experience that you can't, I think, totally explain without actually trying to live here. And especially like now I speak Japanese, my experience as being brown here is even more different, because maybe people, if they're initially a bit standoffish when they kind of start talking to me and see I speak Japanese, we're like best friends.
Yeah.
And so I think being brown in Japan, I love it. I think the biggest aspect of it for me is being Asian in Asia. That's a really it's just something I never got to grow up with, right? Like I grew up in London, very diverse, multicultural and whatever. You're coming across a lot of things that basically you'd say, oh, you have that back home, this is back home, whatever, whether it's India, Pakistan, wherever it might be, Bangladesh, wherever. Being in Japan, there are lots of things that I still see that are from like Southeast Asia, like Bangladesh and wherever else it might be. So it's a nice experience.
I feel like nowadays it's better. Like I think if you were small, like younger, they're like, oh, like curry, you eat curry every day, kind of a image.
We have gotten them.
There are like pros and cons.
Yeah.
And like some people are just genuinely interested and they would ask questions, and there's like microaggression sometimes. Like they don't know, so they ask all these questions, and you're like,
right.
Kind of, if you ask this in a different country, people would be like, oh, that's like kind of a rude question to ask. But in Japan, it's not like that, I guess, because people just don't know. So it's not coming from like a bad place, but it just ends up becoming like that.
Actually, though, but like when I was little, I feel like, I used to get glared at a lot, or kind of like, because when you're a kid, it's different, right? I think kids are more brutal. And like you don't realize there's something different about you until somebody points it out. And kids are very honest, so they're the ones that point it out. You know,
Gotcha.
The most adults will do is like stare at you.
Yeah.
The kids might taunt you, say things, do things, not play with you. So
Was this in school or just like outside?
it's like when I was really little, so probably like 3-4 years old, like just in the neighborhood park, that kind of thing. I went to international school since kindergarten, so like I said, from then it was like fine, but kind of in public, I guess it's a different story.
So since you speak Japanese, how do you feel you're perceived in Japan?
I think being in Japan as a foreigner, it's really, again, hard to integrate, but also the perception is always that you're not going to understand their culture. There's an expectation that you won't understand it. When they converse with you or when they interact with you, they make sure that they speak English even if you know how to speak Japanese. It can be confusing to them when you speak Japanese, but even for you, it's like you feel insulted that, you know, you speak Japanese, you say like konnichiwa and they'll say hello. And it's like, you know, what do you do in that situation?
Do you feel like teachers or like other people in the community, how did they kind of treat you? Do you think you were treated differently for being mixed?
I don't know if it was because I was a mix, but they didn't really. Well, I guess so. Yeah, like when I was bullied, some of the teachers knew because I told them and stuff, but they didn't support me. Like they were like, "No, I think you're overthinking." Like, yeah, but I was completely isolated from the class, right? So there was this like free class, like you can like free seated classes, and nobody would sit on my table. And the teachers knew, right? Because they actually literally see it.
Yeah.
But they won't change the system. So I don't know if it was because I was a mix that they treated me different, but yeah, like I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but they didn't want to deal with it. It's something that I felt.
Do you feel like there's a common misconception about you at times?
Like, I personally grew to not care.
Oh, okay.
So, like, when I was younger, I did care a lot. Like, if people said, oh, like, サラはもう日本人だよね. Like, oh, you're already Japanese. I'd be like, oh, thank you, like, compliment.
Oh.
But, like, as I grew older, I'm like, it's not necessarily a compliment. Like, but it's not like if they call me foreign, I'm, like, happy either. Like, I don't really care, like, what they think. Because I think right now I feel like a part of me is all of them. So I think I accept that. As a child, I think I didn't like being foreign too much. Or like at least brown. And like people are really friendly, like other brown people too. They're like they would talk to you like, oh, where you're from? It's like something common. And I guess it's not just brown people, but like if you're foreign in Japan, I think it's a smaller community than it might be in other countries. So everyone's closer and they know everyone. So I'm raised in Japan, so I do have people that I already know. But even for people that come from abroad, they have a community.
You know, talking to other friends that gone through like similar experiences, like, you know, we didn't know each other then, but you know, as an adult, we became friends. And I hear similarities, like of, you know, they kind of don't want to, like they put it in the gray zone a lot. But other than that, not really. Like sometimes I wish they did treat me differently, where like I didn't read or write kanji. I went to Kumon. Oh my God. No PR, but I went to Kumon. And that's where I learned Japanese. Like when I first came back, I didn't really speak good Japanese. So I went to a normal Japanese school. Originally planning to go to international school, but I did, you know, my parents decided to put me in like for like 3 years. The teachers were like signing me to read a Japanese book where I can't read kanji.
Yeah.
You know, so I wish like they treated me a little bit differently then. Because it's like I can't read, but yeah.
So do you ever feel like you stand out kind of as an outsider in Japan, or do you feel part of the culture?
All the time. I think in my first year or two especially, I really felt like I do stand out here.
Yeah.
I'd say the first 9 months you're still in tourist mode, so it's like kind of rose-tinted glass. You're like, it's okay, I'm a tourist. But it doesn't kick in that you live here. And then after that, when you see, oh, I live in Japan, don't quite fit in, can't really speak the language very well yet. So you do feel like you stand out, not just visibly, but also when you try and interact, it's like you can't fully...
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Like amalgamate yourself with what's around you. But now I've been here like 5.5, 6 years now. Like I speak Japanese a lot better. I work with Japanese companies at a Japanese company and whatnot. All of that has helped, like to the point now I stand out. Like I'm brown, I'm always going to stand out here. But in terms of culturally, my friends around me and the people around me and what goes on around me, it comes to Matsuri season or Obon or, you know, end of the year and like everyone's going back home and stuff like that. Like I get it. So it's like I feel like I've tried my best to immerse myself in the culture and the language to the point where I feel more comfortable now.
I don't know. Have you experienced any unique experiences like as a result of being Indian in Japan?
One time I got a stomachache after coming back from India. It was a really bad stomachache, like almost like excruciating pain, but which is common, I feel like, for a lot of people that go abroad. I came back and a Japanese person that I know actually asked me if I drank the water from the River Ganges, completely uncalled for, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to respond in this situation. That was really funny. I was like, there was no context.
Do Do people have specific stereotypes about you as an Indian person in Japan?
I met a Japanese person once who was like, I think Japanese people just want to feel like they can relate or understand to you. So I understand it comes from a good intention, but the amount of times I have heard, like, oh, you're from India, I love curry, is like, great. Like, yeah, I like curry too. It's not my favorite, but yeah. And I get that they're saying that to relate to me, but, you know, it's just like, okay, that's all you know about my country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you prefer that people don't say that, or?
I mean, kind of, because it's just like, how do I respond to that?
What are the benefits and kind of like the demerits of being brown in Japan?
There are a few demerits, but I think I'll start with the merits first. One thing is they kind of assume that you're smart. We have a lot of brown people working in IT at really good companies as well. So they kind of expect you to be a little bit smart, you know, with math, with technology, things like that. They also really appreciate the food, like brown food. There's so many curry places, like Indian places. A few demerits I would say is, I think a lot of brown people in general, they come from abroad to seek good opportunities in Japan. And so one of the demerits I saw is they kind of maybe look down on a few types of brown people.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like people come as laborers or trying to provide for their family. So they pick up jobs that people don't want, which is really respectable. But I think, you know, in the eyes of Japanese people, they maybe look down upon a few types of brown people.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm also fortunate I haven't had too many like those xenophobic, racist incidents really. Like there've been a few for sure, but there haven't been enough to, you know, make me ever feel like I don't belong here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment below and let me know what you guys thought, or if you have any ideas for videos we should do in the future. Follow me on Instagram and any other social platforms to see behind the scenes and skits. I make a lot of skits, so definitely check that out. See you in the next one. Bye!